Good evening, everyone. Welcome. Good evening. The Woodstock Planning and Zoning Commission, regular meeting, Thursday, June 6th, 2024. The Woodstock Town Hall. I'd like to call the meeting to order at 7:32 p.m. and I'll go to the roll call. John Day, would you please start us off?
John Day, present. Aaron Carbo. Dave Morse.
Jeffrey Marcotte.
Dean Gould. Joseph Athletic. Mark Blackmore. Cindy Young.
It appears that we have a quorum and we also need. But Dwight, you can tell us that you're here as well.
Dwight Reinowitz here.
Thank you. We need two alternates, so I'd like to see in no particular order, Dwight Reinowitz and John Day. Thank you.
Thank you.
That brings us to the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge of Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, and God, indivisible, with liberty, and justice for all. Thank you. Chair's report. I don't have one for the chair's report. I think it's too early to start proclaiming when spring is gonna be here. Hasn't been much of it, either raining or very warm. So that's a good thing. I like it. Makes the corn grow for the cows. Are there any citizens' comments? Hearing none. We'll move on to the meeting minutes. We have some minutes from May 9th, a whole month ago.
Moving to accept the minutes as presented.
Motion by David Morse to accept the minutes as presented, seconded by Timothy Young. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Abstention? Thank you, John. Note for the record, we need it, John Day. Who passes? Moving right along. We have an update on the short-term rental legislation, House Bill 5474, Section 7, short-term rental property. With that, I'll turn it over to Cameron James from the Office of the Northeast Connecticut Council of Governments.
Thank you. Last month I came to you all and I gave you wording of legislation that is being considered for short-term rentals, and it has passed as worded in the handout, which is the exact same wording that was used when I first showed it. So the interpretation I get from that, and I think most people would get from it, is it puts the power in the hands of the town legislature, which is in this case the Board of Selectmen, to handle short-term rental regulating and requiring of regulating short-term rentals. So to me, and I don't know how everyone else feels, but to me that reads as though it is no longer necessary for planning and zoning to deal with this. If there's a significant issue or citizens want something like this, the Board of Selectmen would be a more appropriate forum for that conversation.
Do you think it would be appropriate for this commission to offer some suggestion of language to the Board of Selectmen for what an ordinance might look like?
Yeah,
given what we've been discussing for the past few months?
I suppose, yeah, we could suggest something to the Board of Selectmen. It would just be on the Board of Selectmen for them to vote on it, for them to enact.
But what would they do? What would the Board of Selectmen do? Let's say they decide they want to have an ordinance to do something with short-term rentals. Then what, do they ask the town attorney for something?
Yeah, they'd probably ask the town attorney. I imagine the process might also look similar to the conversations that we had. They might have internal conversations during meetings related to what they want to do. They might have public hearings about it. And I imagine the town attorney would be part of that process to draft language up and make sure it was all squared away.
So I'm a little confused about this, is it, what is the substantive difference between having the Board of Selectmen do it and having ordinance and having the planning and zoning do almost exactly the same thing? Is one preferable to the other, or?
Ordinances have more, I don't want to say power, but they can do more than what a regulation can do. An ordinance can make things not grandfathered in. Regulations would have to have some sort of grandfathered in system. And there are other things that are different. Ordinances generally can do more than what a regulation can do.
So it's more robust.
It can be, yes.
In order to pass it, it has to be approved at a town meeting.
Yep.
So zoning isn't approved at a town meeting, it's not voted on by the public, but an ordinance would be.
But in terms of achieving the objective, is there any? We think it would work better through the Board of Selectmen? Is that kind of a consensus here?
Board of Selectmen, if it's ordinance. Then yeah, I just had the word there, enforcement would be
A lot easier.
lot easier and more effective.
And I think a big part is what Cameron mentioned, that there's no grandfather. Everybody who's running, it's a good thing, would have to register and follow the ordinance. They're not prohibiting it. Register.
I mean, I would say most of the places, most of the towns I looked up were done through ordinances. And it was pretty rare to see planning and zoning, you know, the land use people do it. So, okay.
And I was only suggesting whether it was of value for this group to offer some language, given what we've been listening to from the public so far, what we as a group have been talking. So, the suggestion, I guess, first I have to see if the Board of Selectmen would be interested in taking this up as because, like you say, there are probably several months of steps to go through. I saw in the regulations that there seemed to be a much more specific definition of B and B here.
Yep.
Which was,
And it includes when it talks about short-term rentals, it includes B and B in that, bed and breakfast is in that definition.
yes.
A full morning meal.
I'm sorry.
Says a full morning meal.
Yes, exactly, with the resident owner.
Doesn't say what a full morning meal is.
Lawyers have to-
Any other discussion on this?
Well, what happens next? Now, we as a group say this is not a zoning issue.
We can say that, if there is significant, desire to do something for short-term rentals, someone can bring it up to the Board of Selectmen,
Okay,
in their capacity as a citizen, and suggest the planning and zoning does it, or at least help with it. If there is desire for that and the Board of Selectmen want to do that, that's something that can be done.
could there also be an official letter from the chair of P and Z to the Board of Selectmen indicating our review of short-term rental discussion, and that the indication are that an ordinance creation is something to consider by the Board of Selectmen, given some of the concerns in town?
I mean,
Just leave it like that?
yeah, that's possible to do. I'd say there would probably require a vote from planning and zoning to make
Yeah.
sure that everyone wants to send themselves a letter.
I think especially to add that this follows recent state statute that enables to do this. I'm sure they're mildly familiar with the conversation that PZC has been having, but now there's a tool and that they're the authority to work that, to make that come to fruition if people do desire the ordinance.
I'd also like to point out as well that this isn't effective until October 1st of this year. So there is a kind of hard timeline on that, when we can start these conversations, or, nothing would get really done until starting October 1st, if that makes sense.
What, does that mean we can't start the ball rolling now?
You can start the ball rolling now, just, no ordinance can be passed and be effective until October 1st.
I'd be surprised if.
Yeah.
I was ready.
And what you studied about the other part of this that allows for the municipality to engage with consultants. Is that something that every town that has enacted this wound up having to do, work with consultants to identify what's out there? And would that engaging with a consultant be allowed before passage or the enaction of the law?
So I'm not 100% sure, and I don't know explicitly what it means by consultant. I don't know if that means an outside hired group or if planning and zoning commission would be considered consultant. But I can look into that.
Well, I'd like to make a motion then that we authorize the chair with Dan writing a letter of a friendly letter to the Board of Selectmen to advise them of perhaps this new regulations that's been promulgated by the state, and offering our help if so desired in helping to draft language in a proposed ordinance. And that I think we support, this commission supports the creation of an ordinance to regulate short-term flow.
Second. Motion by Joe Arletta to have the chair write a letter for selecting. I'll have to have somebody else write it for me.
You may delegate that to the side.
My hooked on phonics. It's a little bit rusty. Seconded by Tim Young. Is there any discussion on this? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
All abstain. That so passes. So we'll spend too much time studying. We'll get that done. Moving on. We probably spent too much time studying Babel instead of your phonics. When we were gonna go to Italy last year, I signed up for Babel. No. By the fourth day when I was there, though, I picked up on local stuff, so. Well, Babel sends me an email like 3 times a day still saying, this is your final chance. You can get Babel forever until Charles Manson gets paroled. For only $19.95, but act today, before midnight tonight, 'cause it's gonna expire. Probably not gonna go back to Italy. So. Might be a good window. Brings us to agenda item 6, new business. I'm not aware of any new business. Brings us to agenda item 7, review of home occupation for that application. See, packet. Agenda item 8. Non-residential zoning permit, same thing. Anybody else see anything? Agenda item 9, plan of conservation and development update. I had a brief conversation with first selectman. I didn't have a conversation. I had chat. Email dialogue. And I asked them if they had done anything about getting together with someone to come up with a plan or how much it might cost us. Mostly I asked about ECOG if I had any conversation with anyone at ECOG about how much ECOG may charge us to do the update. I'm paraphrasing here, so I know it's gonna go on the record. Titan has offered to be or proposed to take over the planning as of July 1st. And Tyke will provide, should we? Tyke will provide 8 hours a week for 52 weeks. NECOG provides, I believe, 52 hours a month,
50 hours.
50 hours a month. And Tyke's proposal had intentions of printing it and giving it to everybody, but I ran out of time. Tyke is $4,000 a month, $48,000 per year, and the POCD is included in it. And NECOG is $38,500 a year, 50 hours, so $64.16 a month. Sorry, an hour, and we have the breakdown for Tyke, so. So it's my opinion that, in the long run, NECOG would be a less expensive alternative or less expensive than Tyke, but Tyke would, if we hired them for 1 year, do the POCD. So I was kind of asked to get the commission's thoughts on which way we'd like to go with that.
Seems like it's only 8 hours a week. On some nights when we have a long P and Z meeting, we're not gonna get much done from them outside of just that meeting.
I would offer that NECOG has been pretty responsive over the time that we've been using their services, obviously in the form of Delia. Responsiveness and institutional knowledge so far, with some history, what's been going on in town has value that I don't think at this point Tyke brings, only because they haven't been working for the town. And I would certainly support continuing our relationship with NECOG. I'm not quite sure, I didn't understand the full reading of that email about what services Tyke versus NECOG would be providing, only that the POCD work would be inclusive of Tyke proposal. But I don't know that that's a strong argument to move forward Tyke's.
NECOG would provide us 600 hours per year. Tyke would provide 412. 416 hours for $48,000. NECOG is $38,500. But that does not include the POCD. Delia has mentioned in the past that we could use all the POCD this year and continuing.
Or you can do it in phases.
So we could split the cost up a little bit, so it would be a total burden the first year. getting it all done in one shot. And if Delia had mentioned it could be anywhere from 150 to 250 hours per year, so I'm sorry, to complete it. So if we only used 150 hours, $10,500. It's at that point would be $1,000 over what like you would cost us for like a year. So I think there's, in my opinion, you get more value from NECOG as well. So
I also think we get NECOGs.
anybody else have any comment or discussion?
Just agree that, I mean, NECOG, I believe has been working real well for us and with us.
And they're here.
They're here.
The meetings.
You know what's going on there. And just that, so the cost of doing the POCD on top of that. It's less than 2 years. Difference in between the $38,500 and $48,000. To cover that, so. How often do we do POCD? It's 10 years, so you break it down there.
Correct.
I think it'd be good to switch to hiking for a year, POCD, and then switch back to.
Right.
That's-
I know a lot.
No, that's not. That's a good.
Right, so I will,
Yeah,
Is that, or
you're making a are you being asked to make a recommendation back
Yeah.
to the board of select?
I'm just gonna say with along with my letter, right, I can convey this, and if somebody wants to make a motion that's our wishes, and so
I'll second.
motion by Tim Young to.
You could write the motion.
Right. Motion by Tim Young to retain NECOG for planning services, seconded by Mark Blackburn. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? That's what passes, thank you.
Could you highlight the fact that it was unanimous vote in favor of NECOG, if you're absolutely responding back to the board of selectmen?
Amy's gonna put it in minutes.
Yep, I'm sure she will.
Yeah.
Did you get your steak knife yet, by the way? Did you get steak knife yet? A great job you do in minutes. Agenda item 10, and I'd like to say thank you to the creator of the agenda for using regular numbers. Agenda item 10, the CEO reports. As soon as I said something about it, Aaron had to correct me a couple times, so. I just will, that's different, that's fine. Dan?
So, we've, haven't seen you guys in a while. Our office matters first. I took the week-long Casio training and took the test, and results are not yet back from that. But I was out of the office that third week of May. And then Tracy took her vacation the last week of May. So it's been a little catch up on the stuff that came in during that time period. And looking forward to the future, I'm maximizing my summer vacation by taking 4th of July through the 15th. 11 total days, but I'm only missing 5 office days. The town hall's out.
How you feel about you said the results were not in yet, but think you passed? Or?
It was the same test I took in 2020, identical. When I took the retest, I didn't pass either of those. They don't tell you where you went wrong. They give you a pass or fail. And it's in my opinion, a poorly written multiple choice test. So there was a lot of, maybe broken hearts that day in the room. I think, I feel like I did good stuff, but late for the grade. If I don't pass, there's an opportunity for a free rate retest later in the year. Three questions is it 100, and it's over 5 different modules. The bulk of it is state statute, which is the multiple choice section. Probably half the tests related to state statute. Quarter of the test might be related to plan reading, and that's fairly easy. Like you break out the engineer's rulers, follow the flow, and questions like that. Measure 5 or 6 lines at different scales. There's coastal regulations, which I thought was difficult for me the last time I took it, but I've gotten more familiar with the coastal stuff, even though I don't use it. And FEMA floodplain, National Flood Insurance Program. There's quite a few questions regarding that. We'll see where it goes. I've got a good built-in study group now. If few of us didn't pass, we're ready to put our brains together on where we think we went wrong and good pass.
Be better if they helped you along and tell you where you went wrong.
I know it's still the same test, I think, written by the same person. And he's kind of loves his test.
You didn't go on the dumpster like you did in Animal House and try to find them.
They do cover very briefly the Casio ethics, and we don't do that. You won't get a certification. They're following this test. There's a second session, week long, and then another test, and then there would be I think 20 or 25 page case study on some issue. That I believe is supposed to be completed in the course of no more than 6 years. You can be a Casio candidate for that time, so long as you pay your membership. So I'm really looking forward to having the test results, because that'll tell me what my next steps are. But I'd like to get all of that out of the way as fast as I can. I've been in the field quite a while, and most of the class, besides people that I took the test, there was probably about 10 people in the room that I took the test with in 2020. Back again, but the rest were 5 or 6 months in that position, right out of college, which I think is great for the state that we've had a hard time filling these positions across all the municipalities. But they're very green, and the zoning is very experiential. I don't think the test really teaches me day-to-day zoning, but helpful for the background in the statute.
Just a quick question on the John Gostkowski handled inquiries.
Yep.
Is he retained until June 1st? Is that
I think he has run through the fiscal year,
fiscally that right?
and there, it's actually a reduction of the previous rate. I think it's because I get all the emails now. I bring Tyke in on complex inquiries more than anything. It's people want to potentially do what are all my options, and he's really good for that.
Okay.
But I do all the signing, I do the bonds, bond releases, most of my inspections. I have sent them out for a few inspections, but Tyke's role for the past couple of months has sort of been on call consulting, but not the day-to-day office operation.
Yeah, I forgot it went till the end of the fiscal year.
But I have a stack of things for him every week that we run through real quick, and he gives me peace of mind about some of my decisions. And avenues I didn't see, to communicate to, about these inquiries and. I had, and he's got the connections too, like, for example, one of our enforcement items, about. Stone wall removal inside a, PDR restricted property, farm. And. He knows all the people at the Department of Agriculture and got, me hooked up with the person, their area investigator, and they went out and talked to Mr. Cooper and, rather than, I guess, starting with a cold email, he provides a, you know, Cam, who is the supervisor. We have this problem, that I've been working with Dan in Woodstock, trying to figure out, you know, are you involved? Is it our jurisdiction? And, I would have to start from zero in that circumstance, which is a learning experience, but, it's also helpful to, get this queue moving along, to have some of, the quick answers that they've been able to provide. Good. Thanks. I'll be on, vacation, the week after July 4th. We're gonna hope it's slow, because I don't think we have Tyke from that point on. I've been waiting for that a long time, and I've got to take it. Any other questions about office? Moving on to the permit list. This is activity from our last meeting through the beginning of this month, June 3rd. We've had one application that had to go before the historic district commission regarding a pool that they weren't happy about that, but when I saw that the range of addresses on 169 that they were, well, I'm like, that's right next to the Rosen Cottage. Then there's got to be a little more, and the building official didn't catch it at first, but then we went through the property list of everybody in the historic district commission, and we're able to get them in their meeting and approved, and they were able to. They're worried about not having their contractor wait around for this, but I think it worked out. They required a design that obscured most of this above ground pool with a stone facade. Probably a pricey thing, but they were happy when it was approved. So we had one accessory apartment above a garage. Graphics Unlimited proposed a sign in the state right away, and had to walk them back. They're coming through with a new design for the same property that is within the property boundary.
Is that the same property where the HMR or the old Sherwood sign is, or is this?
No, this is the CR Premier building at
Oh.
the intersection of 169 and 171.
Yeah.
The CR Premier building, jumping down a little bit. I'm sorry, the old Sherwood sign. So I reached out to DOT Region 2, Dan McBride, who has control over the sign, and I think I provided a quote. So the stated sign like this are not permitted in the state right away unless there's a lease agreement with the state, unless the owner provides proof of a consummated agreement that will require the sign to be removed, even if it's existing and has been up for years. He referred this to their billboard division. Been told that the billboard division is a black hole of communication, but I think the jurisdiction is up to them. I can follow up down the road what was the result of their communication with the property owner, on the sign. DOT Region 2, always been very helpful to me. I asked them to check out, a drain or something causing so many problems that maybe DOT is involved in, and they're always very quick. But back to the permit list. Some basic stuff, deck expansion, YMCA had a pavilion that they put in. Another sign reface for a company called Mori Artis. That was a problem-free typical reface. The other one proposed by Graphics Unlimited is a freestanding sign where I'd have to do some calculations on all the sign area that they have currently. But they haven't submitted a formal application yet or paid to review anything. Just bounce ideas back and forth. Onto the enforcement. We recently had a big stir on Woodstock Road that involved state police. State police let our building official, fire marshal know that there's hoarding going on in that property, there's animals. Then we started getting complaints from the neighbors kind of after died down a little bit, with more detail about what they see on a regular basis. There's no magic bullet for hoarding. A lot of times the transformation of a property might come out of tragedy. I've had a lot of experience with this with Windsor Locks. I was involved in a statewide policy working group to push ideas at the legislature, and help organize an annual conference on this. And the best practices currently is what's called a task force, and it's the involvement of multiple agencies, health department, fire marshal, building official, zoning officer, animal control, law enforcement. One person's authority gets us the permission to go inside. The other person's authority gets, once they've seen it, to say, hey, we need egress. Really, what you can accomplish is egress and smoke detector batteries. If you're lucky, there are family that are also concerned, and there's they can swing some rationale to get them into assisted living, and then the property can go on the market. But this is usually there's a reason that things are bad, be it mental illness, drug abuse, and no one department's codes can really just say, hey, clean it up. Actually, there's a high recidivism with this. You could clean it all up and they'll fill it back up even more. This is an issue that statistically affects 5 to 8% of society. We only see it when there's a problem comes out of it. We see it finally when there's persons of old age and there's a call for emergency services to the home. But otherwise, this starts at a young age and it becomes a lifetime accumulation. So there is plenty of hoarding around that I think every town should be working on identifying the players on their task force and getting them together to start addressing these as they're identified. there's not much help, statute wise from the state. But it requires each agency leaning heavily on the regs that it does have to try to affect some change. It works best in conjunction with a mental health professional or professional organizer. And to keep the household goal oriented, and confront that issue that causes them to hoard. I know Dick Barron, when he was around, would attend these conferences and meetings sometimes, and I think, yeah, he was in the process of trying to have the town pay more attention to that. That's something I want to work with the new fire marshal and actually get this task force moving. Because otherwise, animal control is limp put on this by themselves. There's horses, emaciated, all sorts of birds and other animals that don't have water. I think so. Yeah, one resident said he's calling me all the time. I don't know how. Okay. It could be that, this is the only, I'm sure there's other properties that have animal issues, but, this has been the loudest of really the only one that's come to my attention. Got a complaint about a hole knot that he's done for septic on one of the Kennison Gilbert subdivision lots that's getting a new home. When I drove by, the hole was empty. They say when it rains, it fills up and doesn't drain for days. You know, I haven't been able to catch it full, catch it like bone dry. So I wrote the health department out on this and asked the resident to like communicate, take a picture of what they see.
Does that fall under your jurisdiction, and that's more like health department?
Yeah, I think the health department probably can get more done with it. And I'm not sure what reg I apply.
Is that the pit right on the edge of the road?
Yeah,
Like right on the edge of the road,
um,
10 feet off, maybe a little bit better than that.
I think it's like 20 feet in. I'd have to look at the GIS to see how big the right of way is. But you can see the hole from the road.
Yeah, because we were looking at that the other day. Like, that's really close to the road.
But did you see it?
I have seen it full.
Full of water? Okay.
Hasn't rained a lot.
No, definitely not.
Included in today's email correspondence, I think you also have it on the table. Aaron saw that the stock trading post was advertising live music and bring your own beer. And regarding the bring your own beer, we don't have any rules really enforce. We do have one local ordinance that kind of is meant to control parties, that has language that you can't have alcohol consumption within 20 feet of a town right away. And that could be applied in a wild party situation if things were ever to go awry. But who's the enforcement?
Yeah, I don't think it's gonna lead to any issues. I would be curious if there was, I think, yeah, rules and regulations regarding it.
Yeah, I saw that, you also sent the Department of Consumer Protection, they're seeking their liquor license. And they haven't received it yet. Before they could receive that, it would need local sign off. The town clerk, I believe the fire marshal and the zoning enforcement officer to say this use is permitted. They've never approached me for local sign off, so I think that might be why their application is going nowhere. I reached out to them by email. Their info at Woodstock Trading Post. No reply, but I think that was last, on the 29th, so maybe last Wednesday or Thursday. That, I understand they're seeking their liquor, permit. That process requires local sign off. Yeah, but I also brought up the live music and that, that might require a modification of their existing permits. But I wanted to use the opportunity to bring up that music of this type is generally incidental. It's not a concert venue. It's sometimes background music. People aren't there necessarily for the music. They're there to eat dinner, or they're there for ice cream, or I've seen this type of incidental music. It's all over the place. Farms, dairy bars, bookstores, coffee shops. And it's generally, they might have Brant Taylor at Woodstock Trading Post, but Brant Taylor isn't necessarily going to draw concert-sized crowd. This is a cover song gig, and maybe 4 or 5 of Brant's friends might show up, but people are generally there to dine or pet the goats, or wherever, you know, we're talking a type of place that offers this kind of incidental music. I think I don't know exactly what the process here to formalize approved live music, but if it's a special permit process, it's kind of onerous to most businesses. I think I did provide language of a town in Connecticut, Stratford, that has this as an administrative zoning approval type of thing, just rules around it. We've got so much talent in town. I'm a musician myself. Our academy does great things with the resources they have. We've got brilliant musicians in town, but very few opportunities for live performance outside of the Woodstock Fair, which is really local acts, or a seasonal festival. I think there is public benefit to music, but also there's a lot of opportunity for musicians to gig. These types of incidental performances are musicians' bread and butter. If very lucky few get to play in front of concert halls, most of us are playing a few hour set in a coffee shop, and we're just background noise in general, and that's what at Woodstock Trading Post aim may be, to provide an extra additional thing for their clients that are customers that are there for food.
So, can I interrupt here for a second? I was really confused by this. Is there some sort of stipulation that you have to get a permit for live music, but you don't have to if you're playing a stereo full blast? I mean, I just didn't understand what the issue is. It seems to me that the issue is noise. And if somebody has acoustic instruments, or they're playing electric guitars relatively quietly, etc., live music is not the issue. It's the fact that it's noise. And so why is the onus of this not on noise production as opposed to whether something's live or recorded? mean, is this a discriminatory rule against live music as opposed to recorded music? I mean, what is this referential to? Is there a zoning law that says you can't have live music without a permit, or?
Our zoning regs don't mention music. There's only one mention of sound, but it's not related to music. We did see live performance. I think because it's not in a list of things that it might be prohibited, but
Well, the liquor permit. That you list what kind of entertainment you have in the liquor permit, that's usually where it's listed.
do we have? So why did Rusty Relic? Why were we
There've been
reaching out? to
concerns
these?
about music, whether it's recorded music or live music at places like Rusty Relic. The Treehouse had a potential for concern about outdoor music or live music. The Woodstock Trading Post at their location, right near a body of water, would allow the sound to transmit quite a ways. It's not clear if it would be just indoors, which may be useful to mitigate the sound transmission as opposed to that outdoor area that they have for dining. With all applications for event venues, there are always conditions about how late music can play, whether it's recorded or live music. So we do have regulation limitations on what kind of music can be played after a certain hour. I'm sorry, not quite. That music can't be played after.
Where do we have that?
When we have the special permits, we put the time limit that music and that. I understand. But we do put limitations on how late music.
But, so to modify an existing special permit to incorporate the live music, I think is a challenge for most businesses to go through that process. I don't know, how much it costs somebody or what is required for them to modify their special permit. The ordinance.
Be for special permit modification.
What kind of detail are we looking for from a business to provide?
We
to
haven't
have that?
covered.
Okay.
We're not changing, adding parking or structures.
Okay. That's part of the questions I had.
Do we not have some sort of a model that goes with Sakian, Ball Hill?
They were all
What we
individual,
do at what's done at Roseland Cottage?
the special permit for the mansion at Ball Hill, the limit on the course, and they appealed it, they took us to court over that.
Okay.
And then the special permit for Ken Rappaport had details. Not completely remember a lot of details, places of music.
I don't know,
I think house
I
put
can
it
hear
out
the
there.
music from the end, and I'm down the bottom of childhood road, I've heard
They
that.
have to limit their noise, they've been around forever. And it was not told on the where they have the limits either.
They something at the Pink House, you can usually hear it.
Not certain you can hear it in my house.
You can't.
I might even be able to hear it in my like exactly where.
Well, your questions come up in the past about the perceived challenge of modifying a special permit. And my feeling is, instead of trying to find ways around that, maybe we need a discussion to have different kinds of special permits so that it doesn't become. I'm sorry.
Been saying that for years.
I think we need to get rid of the damn things.
Yeah.
And go to a site plan,
What?
so it doesn't stay with the land. You could be a lot less restrictive on it, because we're not all gonna sit here for an hour and a half going, well, what if so-and-so buys it
Yeah.
25 years from now?
Yeah.
It won't matter.
I think it's happened before that special permit kind of is wormholed into some fitting because we didn't want the applicant to go through an expense of modifying the special permit. So anyway, I'm just throwing that out. It's not necessarily getting rid of a special permit or,
Just want to say, as the person who reviews special permits, no one's contacted me about modifying it.
okay. It sounds like Dan was looking at that as part of the challenge of.
My email directed them to Delia.
Good.
Okay. For any modification of any existing permits. I don't know, this is off the top of my head, what our fee is for a special permit modification, but if it is huge, I think it should be in line with what non-residential zoning permit might be, or sign application. I think we can have our thumb on something if we have issued a permit to it, rather than go after things reactively. Let's have people the option to get an easy permit to have live music, and then know what's going on, or know what their intentions are. You're always gonna have they didn't know they needed a permit kind of situation. But I think if it became publicized or known that Woodstock has a route for this, that it'd be something a lot of businesses, farms would be interested in adding to their options. I mean,
So Dan, you think that the current way things are structured prevents people from having live music?
it's not a simple process.
Yeah.
And I think the special permit process is takes people's breath away. Kind of when you say you've gotta go before the commission and get a special permit, or they think, oh boy, I need an A2 survey, or I've got to work with an attorney, I've got to work with something to put this together. And I think it could be an administrative staff review.
But that was sort of my original question. Do we have a statute that says that you can't have live music without getting a special permit?
We don't have any regulation that I'm aware of.
What exactly is the problem?
It's not on the special permit that they have now,
Why does it need to be there?
because that's how it works. You have permission to do what's on your permit. If it's
That's
not,
it?
that's it.
Yeah. And if it's not in our regulations, it's not allowed.
I guess I understand it now, but that seems crazy.
Exactly.
So I, as a musician, I maintain a registry of 3,000 to 4,000 places where you can get a gig, dairy bars, whatever, in New England. And Woodstock, I only have one place out of the 3,000 I've got information on in New England. And it's Taylor Brook, and I don't even know if they've got, I don't know what the status of their permission, but they've been doing it for a while. It's something that helps them. It helps plenty of musicians that I know to have a local opportunity. But the 4 or 5 people they bring out, they're helping Taylor Brook. It's 4 or 5 more customers that weren't going to be there if they didn't have another reason to be there. I think we can expand this these opportunities with a look at our regulations, and I think maybe it should be something that develops over time with public input. But there's a lot of misconceptions too about incidental music versus concert amplified sound, which people think means turn it up to 11, but it's really the sense the speaker. There's ways to mitigate the situation that being next to a lake. speaker direction. Definitely should be limits on times if. For, you know, the neighborly kind of question should be a part of, the regulation, whereas as much as the state statute allows. You said time,
I have to freeze it there.
okay. Okay,
So modification of special permit is down at D. $100 plus the public hearing fee of $225.
so a public hearing would be part of somebody's plan to have live music.
So unless you create a different kind of permit, then that's what you have.
I just wanted to throw this out there and,
So why not have major modification and minor modification? Special permit, a minor modification would be something like live music. Not to exceed, you know, whatever decibels. That's a minor thing, about $25. I mean, it just seems like there should be an easy way to fix it.
If you can define it, I mean, we're getting a nice indication of, you know, somebody playing a guitar.
Right.
Nice quiet music. That doesn't prevent somebody with a 5-piece band amplifiers.
Right.
Making nice music, but it's probably a lot louder and more intrusive than the acoustic.
So then the focus would be on noise.
Well, yes,
That doesn't
correct.
accept.
What is nice quiet music to one person might be.
You're right.
Excellent.
You're right.
Nails on a chalkboard to someone else.
Absolutely.
Right.
I've heard that about my own.
Yeah. In your position as the, not only CEO, but also as a musician, is you willing to compile something that might start the ball rolling, so that we would have something that, you know, you have the expertise to go to maybe several different towns that might have done something and said, you know, this is where I think, you know, it might be, you know, advantageous for the town of Woodstock to be able to do something like this. It might, you know, circumvent certain things that make it kind of difficult. It might, just come up with something so that we can have some dialogue here and,
Yeah.
and have some avenues to go and maybe come up with a program that would work. You know, certainly, I'm hearing you that, you know, we do have little place gig up here, we have places up there, you know, people might like to do this, you know. It's,
I did,
we have agricultural, days and so forth that, you know, people might want to have a little thing that's quiet, you know, and not, you know, we're not talking, it has not to be a rock band or Woodstock all over again or something like that, but, you know, I'm getting it. I think it's something we ought to look into. And
I did include, by email and also on the table today, regulations that the town of Stratford enacted that were put into their zoning regulation. I mean, we have, different pieces and parts that they don't have and vice versa. But it kind of shows potentially how language could be crafted for us. That covers some of the nuisance concerns.
The tape is stuck together. I think you mentioned Stratford in your narrative. I don't see anything from Stratford.
I remember reading it.
Yeah, it should, there was a handout. That, made it into the paper pile and there. But, yeah, if it's missing, yeah.
None of us have.
Okay, yeah. That's strange.
Maybe the person that pulled your mouth and hear them all.
There might be a pile of them somewhere. But, yeah, it's,
Yeah, and I saw it at home and I just don't see it now. I'm pretty old. So I know you said it.
I'll send it around again and then other news articles that cover the story.
They have a noise on scratch from them, so they have something they can rely on if somebody complains about how loud it is. Whereas we can't hear it, because there's no noise.
There might be an ambiguous way to write that gives the town some power. I'll find other examples that don't reference the noise ordinance, to see how they worded it.
Moving right along to budget review and bills. Budget. And I haven't paid any bills, we haven't had any bills, we haven't done anything. It's not very, we haven't done a lot of nothing. How come? Hasn't been anything to do, Joe. Brings back the citizens' comments. In item 12. Hearing none, we'll move on to correspondence. CT Post article about Connecticut lost 460 farms over 5 years. That's about 90 farms a year.
Yeah.
Also, the Woodstock Town profile provided by Advanced CT. And also housing and school and then the webinar Monday, June 17th. Open invite for commission members. On Zoom. I'm not sure if it should be me or buy it. Questions, comments on any of this? So I had a question on the VIA. Sorry, so I go along with the VIA. I had a question on the town profile. So what is, so under economy, it says share of industry. And so government, local government, 591 jobs, 75% share of industry. I just didn't know what that meant. I'm guessing that between the town employees and the school employees, 571. Well, I understand jobs. But what does that mean, share of industry? The percent of what?
I don't know. I didn't write it.
Okay. Then Hyde School is listed as a key employer in 2022.
They're a bit outdated. These are always a bit old.
Okay.
Looked at these before.
Right.
They didn't get the memo, I guess, high school and stuff.
Okay.
I'll also say for the key employers that Line Master Switchboard is employing so many people, it's on there twice.
Yep.
That's the battery in the ground.
What were you looking at, John? Or that, I'm trying to find what you're saying.
Yeah, so it says under economy,
Okay. Thank you.
it says top industry. Lightcast 2022. Jobs and share of industry. And I just didn't understand what the share of industry.
Most of our small towns in the region, the biggest employer would be the school.
Right. But I mean, there's.
We're coming up with over 100% here.
Yeah. I mean,
Add them all together.
100 times over.
they run for it.
Anyway, just saying.
There was, one additional item of correspondence that came in, about 4:15 today. Connecticut Planning Association, Connecticut chapter. About a housing forum, Wednesday, September 11th, 2024. This one is for member of staff and one planning commission. Anybody wants to wrestle over it?
They have to RSVP by June 15th.
Yeah, it's very soon.
It's on 9/11.
It's at the Hotel Marcel.
Is that a good hotel?
I don't know, someplace. It's French. We.
I don't have time to go on Babylon. and learn to read how it works.
But I will, email next Friday, nominate somebody.
Move to adjourn.
You guys won't be.
Before creation.
Young has made a motion to adjourn. Mark second. And Mark Blackman, seconded the motion. Is there any discussion on this item? Hearing none. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? That so passes, and the meeting is over at 3 p.m. Thank you, everyone.
Good night.
Good night, thank you. Good night.